Great films not always sell products. It takes a village to make an ad. My first job was with L'Oreal. I was running the business for Lipton iced tea. It wasn't glamorous. The organization wants people who will follow the rules, tick the boxes, follow the processes, and who will deliver that 9 to 10% growth.
You need to know what is the person's insecurity. That guy probably studied filmmaking. उसको French noir बनाना था, but वो बिस्किट का ad बना रहा है.
सबकी insecurities होती हैं. Even the marketer is insecure. That's why he or she is backseat driving, backstreet boys.
If there are two people in front of you that you're hiring, one has 4 years of sales experience and 1 year of being a brand manager, और एक 5 साल से सिर्फ marketing कर रहा है, how will you hire? Hi Rashi, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hi Harinder, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah. So Rashi, we've had a couple of conversations earlier. This is the first time that we're meeting face to face. But meko, like I said, it doesn't seem like so because we've had a bunch of conversations earlier. So Rashi is one of my favorite marketers. I'm very privileged to meet some amazing marketers, but she's among my favorites. So pehle to congratulations. Had you ever thought in your life you'll reach
I
that
won
stage?
the Harinder prize.
It's quite coveted, but anyway, thank you so much. So folks, I think you would have stalked. Rashi's worked for every great brand ever. She's like our paths intersected at Amazon. Before that, she's with Nestle, Levers, pretty much everybody in the CPG game. She's been around for a while. Right now, she's building something amazing. She's got some of the best content. She's got one of the best content games out there. I'm a big fan. I read and I remember each and everything that you write.
Thank you.
Almost, but yeah, it's a treasure trove, right? So I'll also put a link in descriptions for you to subscribe to a newsletter. I very often recommend it and I can't recommend it enough. So thank you and welcome Rashi. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm good.
Yeah. So पहले तो ये बताओ कि इतनी गर्मी में काम कैसे होता है?
Oh God.
Huh?
काम नहीं होता है. We are bathing with boiling water.
It is
horrible.
just like you can't function. Like imagine doing an outdoor shoot like
Yeah.
as a marketer. Have you done an outdoor shoot like in very hot climates?
Not in 45 degrees.
Not as bad.
Not as bad.
But yeah, I really like pity the folks who kind of do that. But like, how are you? Like, did you like going to shoots? Like early on, I'm sure you don't have a choice. As a marketer, you have to go to pretty much all the shoots because you have to. But did you like going to shoots? Did you like being around? And also more importantly, did others liked having you around?
So, different companies have different points of view on shoots.
Yeah.
So my first job was with L'Oreal, and L'Oreal believes in having their brand managers present in shoots and pretty much managing the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I did that a lot. I definitely did not enjoy it because it was a lot of pressure, lot of ops, lot of handling of the stars, which I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
And then Unilever had a completely opposite belief. Unilever doesn't believe that the marketers should go to shoots.
Yeah.
And they believe it's the agency's forte and let them handle it. So different strokes for different folks. When you get more senior, you start going to shoots just for the food. And that's what I did.
yeah, that's a good tip. Shoot food always hits different, right?
It hits
Especially
different.
like I've had the best meals on Mud Island.
Yeah.
Because all the shoots used to happen there. I think they have like the same caterer.
Yeah.
And like it's a thing. But what do you think? Like should one go? Should one not go? Where are you on the debate? It's not only that question. Like on largely we see like a lot of clients backseat driving, a lot of creative output, right? So where are you on that debate?
I think clients should not go. If clients go, they should go there for the food and to network.
Yeah.
But I really don't think clients have the right expertise or competence to direct shoots from the shoulder of the director. It just pisses off everyone.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time for the marketer. But they should probably go if there's something tricky and nobody's aligned to it. Maybe they should go. But my point is that if everyone's not aligned to it at the PPM, then anyway it's not going to get done, right?
Yeah.
So my point of view is stay away from it. Let it be the agency's responsibility and deliverable.
But are most marketers like that? They're not, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, I think the biggest problem that I've noticed amongst young marketers is that out of the 4 P's of marketing, promotion, which is advertising, is the most glamorous, right? maybe you get to hang with a star. You definitely get to spend crores of rupees on making an ad and then saying, "Aapne mera ad dekha? Kaisa laga?" And that becomes an imagery quotient for marketers, right? So probably they are over skewing on ad bana ke nahi. They are looking for jobs where they get to make ads rather than jobs where there is no advertising, but there's a lot of learning on business. So I think people are obsessed with what is seen and glamorous, and they're maybe ignoring what's unseen and where the learning is.
What is unseen and where the learning is?
So, my best learning happened on jobs where I didn't make ads. So I was running the business for Lipton Iced Tea. I launched iron deficiency anemia biscuit for only ₹2 in Andhra Pradesh. Very difficult jobs. One had to set up the factory, convince the sales team to sell the product, how much to sell in, how much to sell out, how much money will you make, will you make money in 5 years or will you make money in 10 years? It was like a startup in a big company where you had to ask the board for money, right? Like a VC funding. It wasn't glamorous. I was not making multi-million-dollar ads like the guys at Pepsi were making. But now when I look back, I think I learned how to build a business, what's the importance of a brand, what does differentiation really mean there. Because if you over stress on advertising, it takes a village to make an ad.
Absolutely.
There's a production team, there is an advertising team, your own bosses who probably are more experienced than you. So you're a bystander and you're trying to steal glory. Do you learn how to make an ad? Do you learn how to judge creative? Of course you do. But you don't learn how to build a business. And so the unseen part is the boring, stressful business building part. Where you could fail. Right? And that's the part I feel maybe a lot of people are not focusing on.
So they should, right? Like somebody... there's a very senior marketer that I worked with once. He gave me like this mental model on how to work with creative professionals, right? I very partly agree with it, but it's becoming more and more true as I'm going along, right? He said, what you are expecting, you need to know what is the person's insecurity, right? As a director coming in, right? Just understand the entire creative process, not only from the lens of a client. He's like, that guy probably studied filmmaking. Usko French noir banana tha, but wo biscuit ka ad bana raha hai. Right? So you need to understand those micro frustrations in that person. And then on top of it, you're coming in and saying कि नहीं ये frame ठीक नहीं है, इसको ऐसे pan करो, which just makes sure that like just mounds of mediocrity get produced by our industry, because the people who are specialized at doing what they're supposed to do, the people who are actual professionals, are being backseat driven by a lot of people because they feel agency is not getting it, it's my brand, it's my vanity. Doesn't work, right?
Well, if the director wanted to make a French noir film, he failed at it. Or he's making it on Saturdays and Sundays, and on weekdays he's earning his money by making ad films. There is nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
So if he's getting paid to make an ad film, he should deliver the ad film.
True.
Right? It cannot be an arty-farty thing where the consumer looks at it and says what happened and what's the brand.
Yeah.
Right? So, ठीक है, insecurity है. सबकी insecurities होती हैं. Even the marketer is insecure. That's why he or she is backseat driving. Backstreet Boys. So,
tell me why.
Yeah. So, I think at the end of the day, it's about being clear around the table. What are we gathered here to do? Money is exchanged hands. And egos are there, insecurities are there, and lots of things get screwed up because the brand manager also wants to make a great film. He or she doesn't care about sale. And I have made that mistake myself, where I didn't read the room and I made a great film when that company wanted a good enough film to sell the product. Because great films not always sell products. So I think it's just a whole mismatch of expectations and what is the final product you want. And therefore to land this plane, yes, I agree. Insecurities need to be understood of people around the table, but your own insecurities and ego also need to be understood.
Very cool.
Right.
I think we've had I'll segue to another conversation that we've had a couple of times, right? And we were just talking about it earlier, right? In large organizations, there are a lot of advantages to working in a large ship, right?
Yes.
And like both of us worked at Amazon, very different marketing ecosystem than some of the others. There are a lot of advantages, but then there are a lot of disadvantages,
Yes.
like things that don't work from a marketer's lens, of course. Right? There's a lot of like what we can harshly describe as disguised mediocrity.
Yes.
Right? Like there's a lot of yes. I don't want to say yes man, but there's a lot of agreement which shouldn't be agreement, right? And that kind of ensures that there's a lot of mediocre, non-polarizing, ignorable work backed by super amazing media budgets.
Yeah.
But then the creative is just bland.
Agree completely.
How do large organizations kind of tackle this? What do you think about that problem?
So large organizations are large because success has compounded. And they have built those moats of brand name, maybe a distribution might, maybe a tech stack. Maybe they have so much money that they just buy all competition, right? So those are the kinds of large organizations we are talking about.
Yeah.
The good and the bad in that organization is that you can't screw up very badly as a marketer, right? There are checks and balances. So a large organization creates checks and balances so that this glacier that's moving slowly continues to move. Right? So from the perspective of the organization, it wants people who will follow the rules, who will tick the boxes, who will follow the processes, and who will deliver that 9 to 10% growth. Because they don't want to grow faster also. If in India they grow faster, then the global team will say, "Arey bhai, you are India, you should grow 30%, you are growing 10%. So the psychology of the leadership is to maintain appearances and keep growing at a rate where their job is secure and their promotion is on the horizon. So this mindset comes from the leadership. At the end of the day, a large organization promises you job security to some extent and a brand name and a good salary. You go to a party and you say, "Arey, main to is company mein kaam karta hu." Your identity becomes enmeshed with your brand logo, your company logo. Therefore, the mindset becomes one of safety and risk aversion. And that works for the company because if anybody makes bold, brave moves, it could disrupt that glacier. It could break off a big part of the glacier. So they enjoy building the past.
Yeah.
Growing the past incrementally, right? Which is why this births mediocre yes man behavior in big companies. Now, people such as, and we both know people who have lived in one company for 25 years. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it gives you a certain comfort and you're able to grow things at a certain rate. You know how big things work. And you can determine scale.
Yeah.
People who leave big companies and go to small companies or start their own business have a kida. They want to move fast and break things, right?
Yeah.
And they make mistakes. They may make big bucks as well. But if they are in consumer goods, they will never make as much money as the big company. So
absolutely, yeah.
I think I've rambled a little bit, but I think it's about pros and cons. And the company promotes mediocrity because that's the formula for survival. That's the headline.
ज़्यादा मत उड़ो, थोड़ा सा मतलब just don't fuck up.
Yeah.
Just do something good enough.
Yeah.
Right? मतलब इतनी भूख नहीं है हमें.
इतनी भूख नहीं है.
ऐसे थोड़ी होती है marketing.
See, the big brands, and let's talk from a marketer's perspective. With big brands, if you allow a young newbie to change many things, so the Tropicana packaging change is a big example. I write about it also. These people became very egocentric and they changed everything about the brand. The consumers left them. So maybe the moat for a big company is repetitive incremental change.
marketers find it very frustrating, right? Like when they are like a lot of marketers that I know, then and we talk about this over beer, right? That I'm in a big organization.
Yeah.
I'm on a very amazing brand which looks amazing on my CV. I'm getting paid top of market, but then maza nahi aa raha.
Yes.
Like I think that's where the maza is coming from, and
Yeah.
then we see a lot of them kind of diverging, like you said, doing their own thing, going into smaller startups where the reflex is higher, the speed is higher, the risk-taking ability is higher. I feel that's one of the reasons why a lot of marketers get frustrated, especially mid-career, right? Because suddenly you're just like a cog in a wheel where you think, where's my footprint on the sand, right?
Yeah.
Where's my signature on this work?
Yeah.
And I think that's right? That works. And to the point that you made about people staying in large companies for 25 years, for example, like I just put this out like in the morning, I read something very striking. Like, of course, pardon my French, it says that if you're in shit for too long, then it stops smelling. That's the negative of being in a large organization.
Yes.
As a marketer. Like I know marketers in like super large scale, high media budget organizations who would probably struggle to in a different kind of a journey,
Yes.
right? How do marketers in those scenarios kind of solve, especially mid-career folks? Like how do they solve for hunger, upskilling, stuff like that?
So, if I recollect mid-career marketers that I knew in large companies, a large part of their job becomes stakeholder management, right? And they are probably churning out one deck or one document a day, changing a word here, analyzing a number there, to convince powers that be that this is what I need to do. And this frustrates them because it means you have no agency. And that's what frustrates marketeers. Then these marketeers may jump ship to a smaller company, right? Maybe that's a pathway for them. But before they do that, my suggestion is they understand what is it that they bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Right? So a level of self-awareness of, fine, I'm getting frustrated because I'm doing a deck 1,500 different ways in 1 year. But surely there is other value also you're adding. And if you are adding that value and you're growing there, maybe shift your perspective away from the 1,500 iterations to what you're doing. Because every job has different degrees of shit, right?
Absolutely.
If it's 80-20, then
80 shit?
80
shit.
Good work and 20 shit. Then try and make the 80
ratio.
work, right? But if it's 80 shit and 20, now that differs from marketer to marketer. Right?
Shit also is not easy to recognize.
It's not easy to recognize, right? And that's where it comes down to self-awareness, and it comes down to situation awareness. Who knows? Maybe in the other organization it'll be worse shit.
Absolutely.
So how do I decide? How do I switch jobs? How do I pick where I will thrive? Right? And I think that becomes the crux of thinking for a mid-career manager.
Yeah.
So maybe the first thing the manager needs to do is, am I performing well where I am? Fine, I'm frustrated with paperwork, but am I performing well? Do people like me? Am I getting good appraisals? Do I like them? Right? Is my boss helping me learn and grow? Is the company growing? So there are these metrics that I would recommend. People say, so am I in a good place? Because the job switch can be a push, it can be a pull. So if I'm in a good place, then why do I want to move? Those reasons need to be very clear. If I'm not doing well, then even if I move to another company, will I do well there? So what are the factors that are external to me and what are the factors that are internal to me? So
we had this conversation and I came to you and said that, hey, I'm not feeling as challenged, right? I know it sounds pompous, like, but you know what I was saying, right? I was genuinely in a position where I was feeling a large degree of FOMO. And I think all marketers feel that, like, especially if you go to award functions, like, "Arey, itna badhiya kaam ho raha hai, hum kya kar rahe hain?" Right? What are we trying to do? We are writing like the 16th version of the doc, which is great, and of course we love writing those. But and that point in time, you gave me like a lot of perspective, right? And I want to kind of democratize, like, of course, not what you said to me, but I want you to democratize some of that mental model which you said, K. Basically, what are the aspects which you briefly touched upon right now of a great job? I think one of them will be screwed at all points in time. Sab kuch to milta nahi hai.
Yeah. Yeah.
बॉस खराब होगा, पे ठीक नहीं होगी, सब हमेशा एक चीज नहीं होगी. But I want you to, like, so for example, a lot of people, especially between 8 and 12 years of experience, like this, they suddenly reach a point where they feel disenchanted, right? And I want to also bring in the perspective of what you were feeling right before you left for the Sloan Fellowship, with the with the privilege of having the context which you have right now, like Rashi, who's 10 years experience, thinking, should I continue in the amazing organization that I am in right now? Should I study more? How do I feel unstuck? Or Rashi advising Harinder, how do you solve the FOMO that you're going through? Like, just because I think the answer is the same. So just tell everybody about that.
So I think the first thing to think is that it's natural. Everybody at a certain level, whether it's 10 years, 12 years, 15 years or 20 years, will have a crisis of midlife or a crisis of
mid-career crisis.
Mid-career, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Is this the company? What's next?
Yeah.
Right? And this generally comes from not knowing what we want.
Yeah.
And not knowing what we are good at, not knowing what is the right marketplace where we will thrive. So the way we are all socialized, we are socialized to want things that everyone else has, mimetic desire.
Yeah.
Right? We are also socialized to believe there is only one right answer. The math questions, there's only 2 + 2 is only 4, it's nothing else. But life is not like that. As we get 10, 12, 15 years, our answers become personalized. So we are chasing job, salary, valuation, car, beautiful wife, beautiful husband, or, big villa. So we start chasing things that we think will give us happiness. The next promotion. At this level, we realize that I have this, or I'm halfway to having it, but I'm still not happy. So have I been chasing the wrong thing? Probably yes. I'm not saying money is not important. I'm not saying a good spouse is not important, but there is more to life than that. And this confusion, this stuckness, please embrace it, because it's telling you you're growing.
How so?
It's telling you that you finally realized that what you have right now is not giving you happiness. And an exploration phase needs to start outward and inward. And the exploration phase needs to say, what am I uniquely equipped for? So the way we make a brand positioning document, this is the time we need to make our own brand positioning document.
Yeah.
So all the events in our life that have led us to this point indicate strengths and weaknesses that we have, indicate where we thrive, indicate who we work well with, indicate what makes us happy, what gives us energy. This is the time when we write that down. We think about it. And then we try and design a life, a job, a marketplace where we get to bring those strengths to the table instead of focusing on weaknesses. Because companies, appraisal time, focus on weaknesses. I don't know why they do that. They should focus on strengths. And they need to say, this is what you're really great at. Let's design a role where you only do this.
Yeah.
But companies don't do that because they have those little cells with job descriptions, right? So I think embrace the stuckness and use the pain to build self-awareness, and then design your entire life to bring out the best of you. Right? And like all of our fingerprints are unique, right? I am a marketer, you're a marketer. There are 1,000 marketers in India, but each of them, even if they've studied the same course, same college, grown up in the same neighborhood, still bring a unique fingerprint because their experiences are unique and their DNA is unique. And bring that uniqueness to your career. And if you build that internal compass as your compass going forward instead of the external compass, I think we may be able to have a more satisfying career it still won't be easy, right? So I want to be a writer. Writing is really difficult, and
Absolutely.
right, I hate it, but I do it because I want to do it, and I think it's aligned to what I want to do, and it's aligned to what I think I'm uniquely positioned for, right? So this doesn't guarantee success, it doesn't guarantee ease, but it guarantees clarity and satisfaction that you're walking the path that was meant for you.
I remember you made me write down what do I actually want.
Yeah.
And now in retrospect, that seemed like very stupid answer. You remember what I wrote?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you what I wrote. It's like, kya chahiye life mein? So I wrote, I want to become a 0.1% marketer in the world.
That
or
I remember.
something like that,
Yes.
right? So it was, which at the point I feel where that is coming from, right? Of course, having then delved deeper, I think now that has fundamentally changed. Like for me, like I feel, and I was having this conversation with my wife the other day, and I thought, okay, what do I actually like enjoy doing at this phase? Meko pata nahi life mein what are these big ideals and purpose? I don't understand those words, but I just want to be helpful, yeah, nothing else. I just like, she's like, what does that mean? So like, maybe can I be the most helpful person on the marketing scene that people know? And that gives me joy. It just makes me like very happy that I was able to help somebody today. And I know it sounds philanthropic, but it is actually not. Like in all of this ambition, which a lot of while you're running the corporate race, it kind of accentuates all of that ambition.
Yes.
But maybe that's not what you ultimately want. And I think I realize that, and I think you helped me do that very, very well.
But you arrived at the answer yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, right? And my biggest learning has been this. You know, when I was in MBA, all the professors used to say, internalize the lessons. You've got to internalize it. And when I was younger, I didn't understand what internalize means.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like when we are growing up and our parents say, always speak the truth, be honest, don't steal. They're just words. So we process life at a very intellectual level.
Yes.
Intellect marries mimetic desire and leads to this. So, you know, when you said I want to be the top 0.1% of marketers, there's mimetic desire there.
It is, yeah.
You think you should be. This is what society expects you. It's an intellectual decision.
Yeah.
Whereas when you moved to saying that I just want to help people, your voice softened. It comes from the heart, right? It's an experience. You want to experience it. So we experience mimetic desire, money, external signs of success here. It's intellectual, it's ego. But the minute we start really thinking, but what's important to me? What will really make me happy? And will I care about it when I'm on my deathbed? That's when your voice softens.
Yeah.
And what you really want to do comes out.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's really the hero's journey as well, right? So all the stories we grow up with, Bollywood, Hollywood, Joseph Campbell's hero's journey is that it's not just about killing monsters out there. It's about killing monsters inside. And therefore, whenever people feel stuck or confused, I say it's a good thing. Embrace it.
It's the best thing, no?
Yeah.
I think it is. I think I love that part of your career where you change a few gears and then you suddenly start thinking, okay, what is important?
Yeah.
What do I actually feel energized by? And I want like a lot more people to have access to this kind of a exercise, right? In which they're able to say, what do I naturally get energy out of as a marketer, right? Of course, the softer aspects, the larger aspects of life, but like even as a marketer, like something, like I a lot of times get these questions like, "Isme zyada scope hai? Should I become a performance purist?" Or I was like, what gives you energy, man?
Yeah.
It's like what makes you just feel. What makes you feel that, hey, I want to do something, and what makes you feel that you don't look at the clock?
Yeah.
It's just making you happy.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, to have that in your job is extreme privilege.
Yes.
Like it's extreme. Nahi aata wo nahi hota. Like at least I have not succeeded in it. Like I will not try to find that in what I'm doing if I find it amazing. But it's just like sometimes it's like simple thing. Like somebody called and said that, hey, I'm looking to shift from X city to Y city and I'm looking for new roles, and hey, you should also talk to this guy. And she called me up and she's like, this is how this person introduced her. Like I was very happy about this. I was like, I was very happy that somebody said that, hey, you have a problem. I know a person who could solve it. And it had nothing to do with personal ambition as a marketer or to land number of lines that you have and everything else. But yeah, so thank you for that, like the journey that you set upon. And I also worked with a bunch of other marketers to to do that introspection, right? And we'll try and make a little more of that public so that like folks listening to this can also have access to like what are 5 questions they should ask themselves when they're kind of feeling stuck. So what was the answer like when you were like going for the Sloan Fellows at that point in time?
Yes.
Like what was the answer which made you think, "Okay, yaar, thoda sa aur padhai karte hain?"
Yes.
Because what was that answer?
Before I answer that, can I just say one more thing about the 5 questions?
Yeah.
I think there are two regrets that I have about my career. I have never had a mentor that I could go and completely be vulnerable and say, this is what I'm feeling, and somebody really senior and wise. I never had a wise mentor who will hold a safe space for me and say, you know what, this will pass and this is what you need to do right now. Because philosophy and all is fine. People also need to earn money, make all that. But you need a wise mentor to hold your corner and guide you in your path and in answering your 5 questions. The second thing I want to say is that I think I didn't have as much courage as I should have had in my career to ask for what I want.
What do you mean?
So there are people who are really senior in companies, and you said it's a privilege to do the kind of job you want to do. So Rory Sutherland comes to mind. He's the chair. He's someone really senior at Ogilvy. I want to say chairman. I'm not sure.
Yeah. He's written Alchemy, right?
He wrote Alchemy, but he's with Ogilvy and he works with clients on behavioral science. He runs courses. He still works with Ogilvy and he's doing exactly what he loves to do. It helps Ogilvy and it's his superpower. And at some point, there would have been a conversation where he would have said, this is what I want to do. It gives me joy. And by the way, it makes money for Ogilvy as well. Right? That is the sweet spot.
That's privilege also.
That's privilege. And that probably comes from self-exploration and courage. Also to say, this is what I want to do. So he's not running around chasing anything else. He's doing what he loves and thriving in that. Right? So
how can mid-career marketers do this? Like, of course, because sometimes you don't have the privilege of choosing, of course. You don't have the access to roles.
Yes.
And as you start becoming more and more expensive, it starts becoming like the pyramid starts shortening. There are lesser companies that are possible employers for you. Like, how do you navigate that?
But what do you ask for? You can't ask for batch parity. You can't ask for mujhe to aur paise chahiye. You need to ask for experiences and learning.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
You can't ask for promotion, money and all. The company will not give it.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's what you ask for is also very important as a mid-career marketer. Right? Now on to the question you asked on the Sloan Fellowship. I took that up because of 2 reasons really. One was super personal. I'm very, very learning and growth driven.
Yeah.
And I think I've spent more money on buying courses and education than people spend on buying houses.
Is it?
Really. So I went to Stanford because I wanted to learn. And I had missed the bus on a proper MBA, I felt. I now know I could have still done a 2-year MBA. It would have cost me the same.
Yeah.
But
you did a 2-year MBA, right?
I did a 1-year fellowship.
No, early on.
MDI was 2 years. That was another
But you
reason.
were like probably too young. Yeah.
But my only goal was learning. And I knew that these institutions are world class and they teach you things that you can't learn anywhere else. And it came true. So I just...
Hand to heart, did it come true?
It did come
100%.
true.
100%. Was it worth the investment and the opportunity cost?
On the yes, it was. On the learning, yes. I mean, my bank balance was 0 when I came back. I used everything. I cashed out my PF. I borrowed money from my dad. I was 0. But the lessons there, the classes there, outstanding. I still quote classes and professors from Stanford. I don't quote anyone from MDI. I don't remember. Right? So super important. The second reason was, at that time, I thought that this was a step to differentiate myself in the market.
Yeah.
Right? So I did have a good brand name. I was working in Unilever then. But I realized that as you go up the pyramid, you need a differentiator. And at that time, I thought the stamp of a foreign education will help me get eyeballs, will help me get awareness and consideration.
Or does it?
I don't know. I don't have data. It's like ATL. Maybe it did. I can't measure the ROI.
Yeah. But like, you mentioned MDI, and of course MDI is a great institution, but like, we'll talk in generalities. Like, my pet peeve is that Indian B schools are definitely failing marketers, right?
Yes.
Marketers are not being served by the current training ecosystem. So what's your 2 cents on that?
See, I haven't kept touch with what MBA schools are teaching now. But I have been speaking to a few professors off and on, and the sense that I'm getting is that pedagogy has not evolved too much since I graduated. So I think education, especially in marketing, is quite theoretical even now.
Absolutely.
And how will studying cases about the US help me if I'm an Indian marketer? So I struggle to see the relevance, and I can tell you about myself. I got a good theoretical grounding in marketing, but everything that I learned of importance, I learned on the job. Nothing was taught to me
in the classroom
that I could apply on day one and say I got it. Nothing. It was all learned on the job. It was all learned by doing and failing.
Then it's not a professional degree, no. That's the issue. All of us, like, and what makes me even sad is that a lot of folks who are coming in, of course, they come with the wealth of like this huge bucket of expectations from what an MBA is supposed to teach you. Like, maybe it'll teach me how to run a business. Meko dhanda banana aa jayega. Maybe it'll give me an alumni network for life. And a lot of those folks give up high paying, high opportunity cost things. Most of them take amazingly big student loans to come there, and then we're not serving those, because then even then, if you come, like, if you wash a shirt to a Unilever or an Amazon or a Zomato, you still have to be trained on the job.
Yes.
What did you do with those 20-25 lakhs, and some of them like are 50 lakhs for a course,
and take loans?
Like, why are we not holding business schools accountable as the marketing community?
Yes, I don't know. I think because our HR departments, our CEOs, and we ourselves want that stamp.
Yeah. Is it again the same thing that you said in your first answer, that it's about avoiding a fuck up more than getting hitting a big six?
Safety.
Yeah.
It's safety. It's a stamp. Yeah.
What's been your mental model around, like, hiring amazing marketing talent, like, especially folks who are right coming off B school, right? Who kind of have this stamp that we spoke of, but probably not there in terms of learning, not there in terms of exposure. How do you spot कि इसमें potential है कि ये सीख जाएंगे?
Yeah, it's very difficult to spot. I think the mental model of interviews is not right. I've made lots of mistakes by hiring people through interviews. I've made really great hires through interviews. I think it's that skill versus bill, right?
Yeah.
So in an interview, you can judge neither. Because people can fake it in an interview.
Absolutely.
And people do projects, do a 3-week project before you're to be hired. I think it's a waste. Why will I do a project for you for free just so you would hire me?
Yeah.
I think this whole system of hiring is broken. And I think it needs to be a system where people come with recommendations, vetted recommendations. If you're a fresh graduate, how that'll happen, I don't know. But I really don't have a strong answer to this. But I think this system of education, training, hiring, up-leveling is completely broken.
Absolutely, it
Yeah.
is, right? And most of our marketers, right?
Yeah.
And the kind of money that is being plowed into the system is just it's just bewildering.
Yeah.
How we are sometimes at the mercy of consultants who don't get it. Like we in our own way are trying to solve this problem. I firmly believe that like how acute the upskilling and the hiring problem is for working professionals in general, like post MBA working professionals. It will take 100 startups. I say this a
Yes.
lot. It will take 100 startups out of which 10 get it right. नहीं तो नहीं होगा. Like because we are still with the carcasses of systems and processes which existed like 30 years back. ये नहीं होना चाहिए.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, this shouldn't work. I want to ask you, what's the anatomy of an amazing marketer? What makes up? What's the chemical X?
I think an amazing marketer needs to know the business. Because again, my biggest pet peeve is marketers who just want to make ads. So I think a amazing marketer is one who knows where to look for the problem and how to solve it in a profitable way. And you don't have to have the label of a marketer for that. You're a businessman who spots problems, has the passion to solve them, knows how to tell a story to the ecosystem, and then has the guts to get his hands dirty and deliver it through execution. So vision and execution with a pinch of storytelling and huge levels of what is it called?
Hustle.
Hustle ho gaya execution mein. Hustle, but spotting that taste and discernment.
Like an eye.
Like an eye. Having an eye. That's super important.
Rashi, we spoke about the anatomy of what a good marketer is, right? I think I'm divided about like one thing. I think in 2024, marketers should also be creators. Like that doesn't mean कि आप influencer बन जाओ, LinkedIn पे ज्ञान डालना शुरू हो जाओ कि this was my Uber driver story, right? Of course, thankfully, that's not happening. But I do feel like my personal point of view on this is that only when you start creating, do you start actually looking at distribution, do you start actually looking at things like deliverability of my ideas to people in a very non-clinical sense, and you start thinking of influencers slightly more kindly. So where are you on that debate?
Yeah, I agree with that. So this is a complete opposite of what I said about TV production, right? So
ये करके देखना चाहिए.
हाँ, ये करके देखना चाहिए क्योंकि TV production is a आप वो सीखने बैठ जाओगे तो आपको 5 साल लगेंगे.
Yeah.
This if you are a marketer today, you have to know digital.
Yeah.
And to know digital, really, you have to be hands-on. So I completely believe in that. And I myself have learned so much by, running my own blog, making my own website, figuring out tools, how to get the audience. It's a super important skill.
Yeah.
To create on your own. I mean, just do it to learn the tools.
Just do anything, right?
Just do anything.
Newsletter start karo. You do a podcast like this, of course, like you don't need production value. Just do anything.
Just do anything. You learn how it works. You learn what consumers respond to.
Because I feel self-critically that when of course, like a large part of our life is working with influencers. Of course, people who have like much larger, but that influencer started somewhere.
Yeah.
वो किसी दिन creator था जिसके 100 followers थे, right? And it at least made me think about them and like talk to them with much more kindness, right? That hey, this person, like the kind of effort it takes to build an audience of 1 million is something, my God, right? Like to be able to do it across platforms, and you suddenly, the respect that you have for creators, like it suddenly shoots up. Okay, yeah, this like one person army suddenly like thought about discoverability, thought about distribution. There were days when her content got rejected. Even when she loved it, she put money, lost money. And then is where she's getting brands sending her free stuff, right? So that was a great journey of discovery for me, like and I continue to learn so much about creator tools. So you've had the same experience, right?
Yes,
yeah, I definitely feel marketers should be doing this.
Absolutely, they should be.
But like what else? Like considering if you were a management trainee today, like what else would you like be obsessed about?
Oh, I would be obsessed about, and you mentioned this earlier as well, before the podcast, learning from free resources.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, there was nothing to learn from, and now you have books on Kindle, you have free YouTube videos, Facebook, Meta, etc. are giving free courses. Just learn stuff on your own.
Yeah.
I think curiosity is a superpower. If you're not curious, you're not learning and growing and dabble in it. So yeah, I would, if I were a management trainee, I would do that. I would definitely learn AI. I would learn what's out there, where it's taking me and where it's taking marketing. I would learn that for sure. I would balance left brain, right brain. I would learn analytics definitely, because there's so much data now.
Yeah.
How do you read it?
Yeah.
And more importantly, how do you interpret it? So that data and magic, I would definitely do that if I was a management trainee. I would try and learn sales, how to sell, how to communicate.
But you did sales, right? I
Yes.
think when you were starting out.
But now I'm a management trainee, so I would learn sales.
Yeah. But that helps, right? Like, because I see a lot of people from CPG coming in, and I've asked this question like a bunch of times. People say that I loved my sales stint and everything. I never did a day of sales till I kind of started something of my own, and then I realized I have to sell all times in a day.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm constantly doing all the time. But my wrong hypothesis at that point was कि ये दो अलग दुनिया है, ये कभी मिलेंगी नहीं, right? And you might stretch and say that, hey, I learned how to handle a team, like derivative qualities. You will of course learn. There's no doubt. There's no debate on that. But then, if there are two people in front of you that you're hiring, and both of them have 5 years experience, one has 4 years of sales experience and 1 year of being a brand manager, और एक 5 साल से सिर्फ marketing कर रहा है, like, what do you, like, ceteris paribus, right? Like, how will you hire?
It depends on the role.
If it's a brand manager role at a CPG, Nestle, something.
It depends if the salesperson has the ability to convert into a marketer brain. So what I've seen is that, sales is the toughest job in the world, because you're actually asking people to give you money. Okay. So huge respect for that. What happens in sales is that it's a very structured role with objective measures. It's a very black and white situation.
You're either good or you're not. And you're made aware that...
Yeah, either it sells or it doesn't sell. Right? तुम्हें पता है. तो जो nuance, जो creativity marketing में आती है, वो शायद sales में आप सीखते नहीं हैं. I know lots of very creative sales guys who create their own Diwali gift hampers to increase sale. They will themselves design it and sell it. That's not the kind of creativity I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's initiative.
I'm saying that initiative should be there in both people, right?
Yeah.
But if both candidates are equal, okay, I would prefer to take the salesperson, provided I know that the person will be able to pivot to a marketing brain.
But the other guy is already there, right? And he has demonstrated evidence.
Yes. I'll stick with the marketing brain. Whatever I may say about sales. Unless I will, unless that person can pivot and do better. It depends on the role. It depends on, is that marketing role a brand equity role? Or is that role about networking with sales and getting your sales targets done? Because in a large organization, there are various shades of brand manager roles.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a small brand.
Yeah.
Where I don't need a lot of marketing creativity, production, artworks. I'll take the sales guy. And his marketing will be honed, but he'll start getting the numbers first because he knows how sales works. So and that's where careers start diverging, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you start getting different performance appraisals, and that's where batch parity doesn't hold.
If you are a early to mid-career marketer, that you're reporting into somebody who's from a younger batch than yours. Does it happen in CPG?
In CPG, it doesn't happen as much.
Right?
It happens
tech happens
a lot.
Yeah.
In CPG, it happens at very senior levels. I've seen it happen at very senior levels.
Senior levels, of course, because then the divergence that you spoke of is even more pronounced.
Yes.
Makes sense. If you had like a magic wand, like that's the closing question that I want to ask you, and they like one of your pet peeves around the marketing ecosystem, right? It could be anything, hiring awards, how we hire agencies, anything that really irritates the hell out of you. What would you make disappear?
2-3 things.
Okay, we can take 3.
Advertising is not marketing.
Of course.
Okay. Bigger brand
Hmm.
doesn't mean bigger ego. So keep your egos. Bigger brand, bigger budget doesn't mean you are a rock star. You just happen to be in that role.
Yeah.
3 is marketing is a craft. So you've got to, what we were saying now, having that eye, hone it. Don't get lost in just the numbers. It's magic and logic. These are the 3 pet peeves.
Love that answer. And I think the first one especially is very irritating. Like for parents, sometimes it's like marketing means sales.
Yeah.
ये sales job करते हैं. And like for example, for your friends, it's like you're just sitting there making advertisements with the whatever the best are out there. And but sir, just give us your favorite book, favorite podcast, favorite creator in the marketing field.
Oh my God. Favorite creator?
We'll start with favorite book, right? What's the one book that everybody watching this video should immediately go? We'll put a link on for the Amazon link for the book.
Yeah, lots of books. I'll give 2. Creative Blindness.
Creative Blindness. Who's this by?
I forgot.
Some dude, yeah.
Creative Blindness and Alchemy by Rory Sutherland.
Alchemy is really good.
It's really, really good.
Yeah. So I love that book because it's just like making the case for magic. And I read that while at Amazon, which is a company super heavy data driven, right?
Yes.
And as it should be, that's the reason for a lot of their success. And then reading that, hey, where's the room for magic here? And I think we were missing that like a little bit.
Yes.
Highly recommend that. So double click. I'll put the link in the description. Favorite podcast or show.
Podcast or show. Oh my God, there are so many. So my favorite podcast or show is John Oliver's Last Week Tonight.
Perfect. But like marketing related, anything you really like.
Lenny's podcast on product management.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Lenny does great stuff. And I think it's not only product, he also does a lot of marketing and growth stuff.
Yes.
So, and like anybody comes there. So
it's lovely.
Great podcast. I absolutely recommend. And favorite marketing creator?
Marketing creator, I don't have any. In India, no.
Abroad. I know you love Alex Smith a lot, so
I know I like Alex Smith a lot. I like thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
Alex Smith, Eddie Schemeyer, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's a copywriter.
Yeah.
Cole Schaefer.
Culture.
He's a copywriter. Outstanding. Yes.
We'll put the links in the description for all of you to benefit from all of these other creators. Please have a look at that. But thank you so much, Rashi.
Thank you for
I
having
really
me.
enjoyed talking to you, and in the sweltering heat that we are in right now. Like Gurgaon melts your face, but I don't know kaise karte ho. But yeah, lovely having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.